Veterans who have suicidal ideation can get, generally, mental health help through the VA. So one of the things that it's important to do is to get veterans hooked up with mental health help through the VA. Now that we have the Choice Act, there are options for veterans who don't live near a vet center or a Veterans Regional Office to get treatment more locally. The goal is to make sure that people are getting the help and support they need in an effort to reduce the suicidal ideation. And one of the ways that I feel that we contribute to that is by representing veterans who have mental health issues, who have suicidal ideation, keeping their claims moving forward.
Welcome to the Victory Over VA podcast, a podcast about empowering veterans to overcome denied disability claims. Each week, we deliver critical insights to help you understand the disability process, veterans' benefits, and how to take control of your legal rights. Now here's your host, Attorney Francis Jackson.
Welcome to Victory Over VA. If you're a veteran struggling with the VA's disability system or just want to make sure you're getting the benefits you've earned, you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an update that could change your life. I'm Christian Tarrison, here with renowned veterans disability attorney Francis Jackson of Jackson and MacNichol. Jack has dedicated his career to helping veterans like you win the benefits you deserve, recovering millions of dollars for thousands of heroes. This podcast isn't just for veterans navigating the system. It's for their families, their friends, and anyone else who wants to stand shoulder to shoulder with those who served. So stick around because we're here to make sure you get the support you need. Now, today's show is about another sad topic, as so many of our episodes can be about veteran suicide, the problem of veterans taking their own lives. How widespread is this problem among U.S. veterans, and how does it intersect with the work that you're doing with veterans' disability claims?
Well, let me take those in separate pieces. It's a widespread problem. The statistics continue to show that despite all the efforts the VA has made, and they've made some significant efforts, veterans still have a higher suicide rate than the population at large. So that's the kind of the baseline problem, if you will. In terms of what we do, we've had a number of veterans who have had what's called suicidal ideation, meaning they think about suicide. I'm happy to say that we have not had a lot of veterans who actively committed suicide, but I am hoping, there's obviously no way to prove this, but I'm hoping that is an effect, a benefit of our representation of those veterans. But the way the system works is that for veterans who are having mental health issues, including suicidality, I said that badly, suicidality. I struggle with that word, as you can see. Suicidality is the correct pronunciation. Mm-hmm. Anyway, veterans who have suicidal ideation can get, generally, mental health help through the VA. And so one of the things that it's important to do is to get veterans hooked up with mental health help through the VA. Now that we have the Choice Act, there are options for veterans who don't live near a vet center or a Veterans Regional Office to get treatment more locally. So the goal is to make sure that people are getting the help and support they need in an effort to reduce the suicidal ideation. And one of the ways that I feel that we contribute to that is by representing veterans who have mental health issues, who have suicidal ideation, keeping their claims moving forward, reassuring them that we will not let the claim fall by the wayside, even if the VA takes a long time to decide it, as they often do, and generally trying to be supportive. We aren't mental health specialists, we aren't counselors, but just knowing that there is someone out there who has your back and is making sure that your claim moves forward, I think is helpful to many veterans who have suicidal ideation.
I know dealing with the impenetrable monolith of the VA can really be a defeating feeling. You wait, months and months for a communication. Oftentimes when it does come, it's bad news or, something that you have to do, make it to a CMP exam, et cetera, find some piece of paperwork from 30 years ago.
Yep.
It's a challenge. So what role, just in your experience, does undiagnosed or unrecognized mental illness play when it comes to suicidal ideation?
That's too technical a question for me to answer with real assurance, but based on my experience over the years, I think undiagnosed mental illness is usually the cause of suicide. In addition to doing veterans benefits, for many years I did Social Security disability benefits. And one of the things that really became very clear to me was that when people become physically disabled and unable to work, they get depressed. I don't care if somebody comes in and tells me, oh, no, I'm fine, I'm not depressed. That is not the truth. Nobody who is physically disabled is as happy as they were before. It gets people down. They can't do the things they want to do. They can't earn a living. They can't take care of their kids. They can't play with their kids. They can't go out and be with their friends. It gets people down. And it's often hard to get people to admit to that. One of the things that is very widespread in the culture among veterans is, I'm going to tough it out. I'm going to keep a stiff upper lip. Pain is weakness leaving the body. That's a great line. But chronic pain is mentally disabling. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how tough they are. It's mentally disabling. It is. And in fact, there are studies that show that people who suffer from chronic pain actually have a shrinkage in the brain. That is how dramatic the effect of chronic pain is. So what I've seen over the years leads me to believe that there is a very close relationship between typically undiagnosed depression, but it can be some other things, but usually depression. Although years ago I had one case where the gentleman just suffered from terrible anxiety, and they tried him on all kinds of medication. Didn't work. The only thing that allowed him any sense of relief was alcohol. And he was literally drinking himself to death, and the doctors told him, you can stop drinking and you'll live longer. And he said, no, not going to stop drinking. My anxiety is so bad when I stop drinking that I'd rather be dead. I mean, it was literally that bad. But usually it's depression. And one of the things that we encourage folks to do if they are physically disabled and in pain is to get in touch with, usually through the VA, the mental health folks, get assessed, get a diagnosis if that's appropriate, get treated, get medication if that'll help. Just take steps to make sure that undiagnosed depression doesn't lead to suicide.
Now, if a veteran has a pending claim for disability and, God forbid, during that period takes their own life, what happens to their claim as far as is there any benefit available to their family, to their next of kin?
There may be, it sort of depends on who's in the family. But generally speaking, if we can show that a death was the result of a service-connected disability such as depression, then there will be benefits for the spouse, what's called DIC, or dependency and indemnity compensation, meaning compensation for the loss of the spouse that they were dependent on, and an indemnity to protect them from the economic loss, or at least in part protect them from the economic loss of that person. But because dependency and indemnity compensation is such a mouthful, it's just referred to as DIC benefits. Anyway, generally speaking, there are benefits for the spouse. There are benefits for children under 18 or into college age if they are enrolled in college. There are benefits for parents if they were financially dependent on the veteran. And there are potentially benefits available to those who spent money to support the veteran for expenses of last illness or funeral and burial. The VA is usually able to repay those amounts from any amounts that are benefits the veteran had applied for but had not received during his or her lifetime. So the short answer to your question is maybe. Depending on the exact circumstances, there are some people who might be able to get benefits if that unfortunate situation came about.
Now, you mentioned having to prove that the suicide was caused by a service-connected condition. How would, surviving family members go about proving that connection? Does it need to be something that was proved during the condition, need to be something that was proved during the veteran's lifetime? What is the timeline like for meeting that burden?
Well, there are actually a couple of things that I should add to that. One is that if the veteran was entitled to pension benefits rather than service-connected compensation, although the amount is smaller, there's no requirement that you prove that the death was service-connected. So the widow would just be entitled to pension benefits, assuming that she qualifies financially and that the veteran qualified based on service during a period of war and other criteria. So for that benefit, there's no requirement for proving that the death was service-connected. Turning to service-connected benefits, generally speaking, the way you would prove that is with a mental health expert's opinion, psychiatrist, psychologist, licensed clinical social worker, someone with expertise in mental health rendering an opinion on that topic. It is helpful, as you mentioned, to have records establishing that mental health condition prior to death. It's much tougher to kind of try to do that retrospectively, but it's possible. It's been done, we've done it, but it's harder and doesn't always work. But generally speaking, if people are in bad enough condition to reach the point of committing suicide, there are signs and symptoms before they get to that point. Most people don't go directly from 0 to 60, as it were. There's a gradual period of decline and function, and that is observable, and you can get records about that. There's usually, although not always, some kind of mental health records in those situations. So those are the things that we would look for and that would be useful to prove that.
So if you are representing a veteran who's, got very severe symptoms, including suicidal ideation, what types of things do you do to manage a case like that and help that veteran to still navigate and participate in the process?
Sure. Well, obviously, we don't provide his or her mental health counseling, but we encourage any veteran who is reporting suicidal ideation to seek help. And if they report directly to us that they are feeling suicidal, we encourage them to get on the suicide hotline right away. We have had situations where people contacted us, told us they were suicidal, would not agree to go for treatment and contract with us for safety. And we've had to make some very difficult decisions as to whether or not to call the authorities and ask them to check on this person. Most of our veterans do not take kindly to having the police come and make a wellness check. But if you call our folks on the phone and say, I'm going to commit suicide, we don't have any option. We have to make an effort to try to prevent that. And usually the only way we can do that, unless we know who your treating folks are and can contact them, absent that, it's calling the local police or sheriff's department and saying, we have reason to believe that Mr. Jones or Ms. Jones is potentially suicidal and we need you to make a welfare check. Those situations don't usually work out well from any point of view, but it happens.
Yeah.
But short of that, we encourage people to contact their mental health folks or to contact the VA, get set up with mental health folks if they don't already have someone, to go to the nearest vet center and talk to a counselor there. There are some options. Depending on where people live and how isolated it is, there may be greater or lesser numbers of options. But there usually is some option, even if it's only talking on the phone to the suicide hotline.
And just to end on, for veterans who might be listening today and are in crisis, or for family members who are concerned about a veteran relative, what is legal and medical steps should they be taking right away? You mentioned the suicide hotline is a great resource.
There's the suicide hotline. There are vet centers throughout the country, and those folks are very good. I commend to anyone who's having difficulties that they go to the nearest vet center. One of the things that we can do from a legal perspective is if we have a veteran who is suffering from severe suicidal ideation, and I have to underline that it's severe, it's got to show up in the medical records, but if we can show severe suicidal ideation, we can actually ask the VA to expedite someone's claim, which sometimes will result in a faster, favorable decision and reduce the pressure on the person because they know that they're going to get benefits, they're going to have a stable source of finance going forward, and all of the concomitant benefits of that. They're going to be able to get health care, they're going to be able to afford a place to live, all of the things that come with having a stable income. Mm-hmm. And there's an important case from the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims recently, the Heller case, where they established that in fact a showing of severe suicidal ideation absolutely entitles the veteran to have the case expedited. And that's important because some of these cases drag on at the board, or particularly at the board, for several years. I mean, it's not like these things go quickly. And so, and particularly if it gets remanded and it loops back, it can take a long time. So expediting the case can be a huge, huge win for the veteran.
All right. And on that hopeful note, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Victory Over VA. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Join us next week.
We hope to see you then.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Victory Over VA podcast. Make sure to visit our website, veteransbenefits.com/podcast, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Spotify, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like this show, you might want to check out our free consultation to see how we can help you with your denied claim. Simply go to veteransbenefits.com and fill out the form. You fought for us. Now let us fight for you. And be sure to tune in next week for our next episode.